It felt like a script, not a match, not a tournament, but a script. Every twist, every goal, every celebration was perfectly timed. The hero was the greatest player of all time. The villain? France. Kylian Mbappe. The unstoppable heir. 2 hours that decided football's throne. And somehow, it was flawless. Too flawless. Because here's the question no one wants to ask. Was Messi's World Cup win too perfect to be real? December 18th, 2022. Lusail Stadium, Qatar. The whole world is watching. Not just Argentina, not just France, but billions of eyes. Some tuned in to see greatness crowned. Some tuned in to see it denied. Lionel Messi had waited his whole life for this day. 5 World Cups before. 4 failures. Each one more painful than the last. In 2014, he got within touching distance. And then Mario Götze stole it. That night in Rio, Messi walked past the trophy without touching it, without looking at it, because it wasn't his. Now, 8 years later, it was his last chance. The stage was set in a way that felt impossible. 7 games, 7 chapters, a redemption arc so clean you'd think Netflix wrote it. And yet, behind the magic, behind the tears, there were questions about how the tournament unfolded, about how destiny seemed to follow him, about how football, so often cruel, random, chaotic, suddenly became a perfect fairy tale. This is the story of what happened before, at, and after the World Cup, and why it might have been too perfect. To understand why Qatar 2022 felt scripted, you have to start years earlier. Not in Argentina, not even in Spain, but in the Russia World Cup 2018. Messi's Argentina were a mess, a broken dressing room, a manager in over his head, a team that looked old and scared. They scraped past Nigeria, fell apart against France. And Messi, the man the world expected to save them, was silent. 1 goal and 1 assist. Gone in the round of 16. Critics called him finished. Not at Barcelona. There, he was still magic, but for Argentina, they said the dream was dead. Messi had almost retired from international football once before. In the 2016 Copa America final, Messi lost 3 finals in a row. He missed a penalty in the shootout and broke down in tears on live TV. "I tried so hard," he said, "but it's not for me." He came back, but each failure left scars. By 2020, the situation looked worse than ever. He was trapped at Barcelona. The club was collapsing financially. The team was humiliated in the Champions League. 8-2 by Bayern Munich. The Messi era was ending. Not with a roar, but with a whimper. And then came the move no one expected. Messi to Paris Saint-Germain. It should have been a dream, playing with Neymar and Mbappe. Instead, it was awkward. French fans booed him. The media questioned his work rate. Some even said PSG didn't need him. For the first time in his career, Messi wasn't adored. He was doubted. And yet, quietly, something was changing. In July 2021, Messi finally lifted a trophy with Argentina. The Copa America, in Brazil, against Brazil, in the Maracanã. It was the first brick in his redemption story. And suddenly, the Albiceleste looked unstoppable. They arrived in Qatar with a 36-game unbeaten streak. Messi was smiling again. The dressing room was united. The team was built around him, not in spite of him. And still, no one could predict what would happen next. Because when the World Cup began, it didn't feel like destiny. It felt like a disaster. It was supposed to be the perfect opening. Argentina versus Saudi Arabia. A team of World Cup giants against a team ranked 51st in the world. Messi scored early. A calm penalty. The crowd was singing. Commentators were already talking about goal difference. And then, football reminded us it's not a script. 2 goals in 5 minutes. Saudi Arabia flipped the match on its head. 2-1 to the Saudis. The shock was instant. The unbeaten run was gone. The air in Lusail Stadium turned heavy. Messi stood still after the final whistle, eyes blank. The headlines were already being written. Messi's last World Cup starts with humiliation. It wasn't just a loss. It was the kind of loss that breaks teams, that kills momentum, that turns maybe into never. But something strange happened in the days after. No panic, no finger pointing. The team doubled down. Messi faced the cameras and said, "We ask people to trust us. This group will not let them down." It didn't sound like hope. It sounded like certainty. Mexico. The second match. 90 minutes to save the tournament. The game was ugly, tight and nervous. Then that moment. Messi picked up the ball outside the box. One touch, shot, low, precise, and goal. The stadium exploded. Argentina's World Cup was alive. That goal wasn't just a goal. It was the spark. The turning point. Poland. Third match. Win. And they're through. Messi missed a penalty. Another blow maybe, but it didn't matter. The rest of the team stepped up. Alvarez scored. McAllister scored. Argentina topped the group. From losing to Saudi Arabia to topping the group in 2 games. The script was back on track. And here's the thing. If you were writing a movie, this is exactly how you'd do it. The hero stumbles in the first act, falls hard, then rises stronger than before. Messi's fall. Check. Messi's resurrection. Also check. And now the knockout stage, where the story would get stranger, where destiny would seem to hold his hand. Round of 16. Argentina versus Australia. Not France, not Spain, not Germany, but Australia. A team that had already overachieved just by being here. No disrespect. They fought hard. But man for man, Argentina were levels above. Messi's 1,000th professional match. Think about that for a second. The number alone feels like a piece of screenwriting symbolism. And he delivered. A classic Messi goal. A little shimmy in the box. The perfect finish. 2-1 win. No drama, no upset, just another step forward. Quarterfinal. This one looked dangerous. The Netherlands. Louis van Gaal. Tall, physical, and tactically sharp. Messi turned on the magic. One outrageous assist. One cold-blooded penalty. 2-0 up with 10 minutes to go. Then chaos. The Dutch fought back. Weghorst scored twice. The second with literally the last kick of normal time. In the extra time, tension everywhere. Cards flying. Fights breaking out. It went to penalties. And in those moments, Argentina didn't blink. Messi scored and Emiliano Martinez turned into a wall. And they get the win. The hero survives another scare. The story gets tighter. Semi-final. Messi versus Croatia. The team that destroyed Argentina 3-0 in 2018. This time, no contest. Messi scored from the spot, then produced that assist, twisting Josko Gvardiol, one of the best young defenders in the world, inside out. Alvarez scored twice. 3-0. If you were suspicious, you'd notice something. Argentina's toughest possible opponents, Brazil, Portugal, Spain, never crossed their path. By the time the final came, the only giants left were France. Everything had built to this point. 7 matches, 6 wins. Each one with a moment for the highlight reels. Each one with Messi at the center. It was perfect. Too perfect. And then came the final. A match so insane. You wouldn't believe it if it was a movie. December 18th, 2022. Lusail Stadium. The heat in Qatar felt heavier that day. It wasn't just the weather. It was the weight of history pressing down on everyone in the building. 2 nations. 2 legends in different stages of their journey. Lionel Messi, 35 years old, fighting for the one trophy that had slipped through his fingers his entire life. Kylian Mbappe, 23, already a world champion, is hungry for a second title that would put him on a path to football immortality before his career had even truly peaked. The atmosphere was a strange mix of festival and funeral, joy and dread in equal measure. Argentina's fans had turned Lusail into a sea of sky blue and white. France's supporters were fewer in number, but louder in confidence. Everyone knew they were watching something that would be remembered forever. even if no one yet knew why. From the very first whistle, Argentina played like a team possessed. Not nervous, not cautious, possessed. They swarmed France, pressing with the kind of energy you only see when 11 players truly believe, that this is their moment. Messi dropped deep, threading passes between the lines. De Paul chased everything. Di Maria, recalled to the starting 11 after missing much of the tournament, looked like a man who'd been waiting his whole career for this stage. The breakthrough came in the 23rd minute. Di Maria drove into the box, Ousmane Dembélé tried to recover, there was contact, and the referee pointed to the spot. Some called it soft, others inevitable. Either way, the ball was in Messi's hands. He didn't look at Loris, he didn't glance at the crowd. Just a deep breath, a short run, and a calm finish. 1-0. France barely had time to process the goal before Argentina hit them again. It was a masterpiece. Messi to McAllister to Di Maria. One sweeping move that cut through France like a blade through silk. Di Maria's finish was pure emotion. He knew what it meant before the ball even crossed the line. 2-0. For the rest of the half, France didn't look like France. No shots on target, no control, no swagger. At halftime, the story felt written already. But football doesn't care about what feels written. The second half began cautiously. Argentina managing, France searching for a pulse. Deschamps rolled the dice, bringing on Kolo Muani and Marcus Thuram, trying to inject speed and chaos. For most of the half, it didn't work. And then, in the 80th minute, it did. A long ball, a flick, Kolo Muani in behind, and Otamendi dragged him down. Penalty. Mbappe stepped up, sent Martinez the wrong way. 2-1. 60 seconds later, chaos. France won the ball back immediately. Thuram found Mbappe with a chipped pass, and without letting it touch the ground, Mbappe smashed a volley past Martinez. 2-2. In the space of 90 seconds, a World Cup final had been reborn. Argentina looked stunned. The perfect script was now an action thriller, and the hero wasn't guaranteed to survive. Extra time was pure theatre. Messi scored again in the 108th minute. A scrappy finish that needed goal line technology to confirm. 3-2. Argentina's bench exploded. The fans screamed his name. It felt like the final act. The last twist. But Mbappe wasn't done. A handball in the box. Another penalty. Another cold-blooded finish. Hat-trick. 3-3. The tension was unbearable. Every pass, every tackle felt like it could decide history. Then, the moment. The one that will live in slow motion forever. 120th minute. A ball over the top. Kolo Muani clean through on goal. The kind of chance kids dream about. The kind that defines lives. One touch, strike, and then Martinez. Not diving early, not guessing, waiting, spreading himself wide, throwing his body into the path of destiny. The ball slammed into his leg and ricocheted away. For a split second, time stopped. That save wasn't just a save. It was Argentina's World Cup survival in physical form. It was the difference between Messi lifting the trophy and watching someone else do it. The penalties felt inevitable after that. Messi's calm roll into the corner. Martinez's mind games, his saves. Montiel's final kick. A clean strike that buried 36 years of Argentine longing. Messi fell to his knees. He was smiling and crying at the same time, surrounded by teammates who seemed as stunned as they were overjoyed. And as the trophy was handed to him, wrapped in a Qatari bisht, the world asked itself, could this really have been more perfect? Could a story this flawless have been real? The final whistle didn't just end a football match. It detonated an emotional explosion that rippled across the planet. In Buenos Aires, the city became an open-air cathedral. Millions flooded the streets, climbing lampposts, singing until their voices broke. People hugged strangers like lifelong friends. Some cried openly. Others just stared into the night sky as if they couldn't believe what they'd just seen. Messi wasn't just a footballer anymore. He was a saint in boots. In Rosario, his hometown, the celebrations felt almost supernatural. Fireworks turned the night into day. Old men who'd once watched a boy play barefoot in dusty streets now watched him conquer the world on giant TV screens. His old neighbors swore they'd always known he'd do it, even though many of them had cried with him through the failures. In France, the mood was something else entirely. Respect, disbelief, but also frustration. Mbappe had scored a hat-trick in a World Cup final, a feat no one had achieved since Jeff Hurst in 1966, and still lost. Some French fans blamed illness in the camp that week. Others whispered about strange refereeing decisions. And then there were the conspiracy seeds. Because here's where the too-perfect theory really started to grow. Some pointed out that Argentina were awarded 5 penalties in the tournament, more than any other team. That Messi, in the final, had moments of space you rarely see against France's defence. That the arc of the story, the Saudi shock, the gradual rise, the epic final, the win, was almost unnervingly clean, like it had been storyboarded in advance. Online forums lit up with speculation. Did FIFA want Messi to win? Qatar had invested hundreds of billions into hosting this World Cup, and Messi was a global icon, adored far beyond football. His image lifting the trophy would be the perfect marketing legacy for the tournament. Too perfect, some said. Messi himself, of course, brushed it all aside. "This is the most beautiful thing there is," he told reporters, holding the golden trophy like a newborn child. "I knew God was going to give it to me. I had a feeling." And maybe that was it. Maybe this wasn't scripting or conspiracy. Maybe it was just football, in its rarest, most poetic form, giving the game's greatest ever player the ending he deserved. But for others, the feeling lingered. That football, the chaotic, unfair, unpredictable sport, doesn't usually hand out endings like this. It leaves them messy, unfinished, bitter. This time it didn't. This time, it was flawless. In the months after Qatar, Lionel Messi's image with the World Cup became more than a moment. It became an icon. Murals bloomed across Buenos Aires, Rosario, even in cities thousands of miles from Argentina. In Naples, in Dhaka, in Cairo, places with no direct stake in the win. Walls were painted with his smile, the trophy in his hands, the bish draped across his shoulders like a royal cloak. Messi's win was framed as the ultimate completion of football's greatest career. 4 Champions Leagues, 10 La Liga titles, 7 Ballon d'Ors, Copa America, Olympic gold, and now the one that mattered most. For many, it settled the endless debate. Pelé? Maradona? Messi? The conversation was over. But legacy in football is never just about medals. Messi's win was also a cultural moment. A reminder that football can still give the world pure, unfiltered joy. And yet there it was, that whisper. You could hear it in podcasts, in pub conversations, in late-night football debates. It was too perfect. Because when you look at the arc, it still feels like a script. The shock loss to Saudi Arabia that forged resilience. The revival against Mexico. The path through opponents who seemed tailored for Argentina's style. The final against the reigning champions, their golden boy scoring a hat-trick, only to be denied in the most dramatic way possible. The save from Kolo Muani, 123 minutes in, the kind of save that looks predestined when replayed in slow motion. It was football as cinema, flawless in structure, flawless in drama, and football is rarely flawless. So maybe that's the truth. Maybe it wasn't scripted. Maybe it wasn't a conspiracy. Maybe it was just one of those once-in-a-century alignments where the chaos of football decided, just this once, to tell the perfect story. A story where the hero got the ending he deserved, where billions of people felt the same wave of happiness at the same time, where, for 90 minutes plus extra time, the world stopped fighting and started watching. Messi will never play another World Cup. His last act on that stage was to hold the trophy high, his smile breaking under the weight of tears while confetti rained down. And whether you believe it was destiny, design, or pure coincidence, that image will outlive us all. Because it wasn't just a football moment. It was a human moment. They say, football writes its own stories. But sometimes you can't help wondering who's holding the pen. Thank you for watching. Until the next time, you can watch this video. See you there.